Good afternoon, Year 4s, and welcome to our art lesson for today. So we're going to be practicing the technique of weaving. And the big question is, how do we weave? So our steps to success are, I can recall what weaving is, I can recall different material to use for weaving, I can practice weaving using paper. So to start off with, let's do our just checking grid. So we've got last week, name something the Egyptians weaved. Last unit, what materials did we use for printing? Last term, block printing involves carving an image and printing it. And last year, what is Cubism? So pause the video and answer those questions. Okay, so name something the Egyptians weaved. Was baskets, socks, mats, bags for some examples. Last unit, what materials did we use for printing? And we used potatoes and foam board. Last term, true or false, block printing involves carving an image and printing it. And the answer is true. And then what is Cubism? Cubism is a type of painting where you paint an object or person from different angles and use lots of geometric shapes. Okay, so back to the big question is, how do we weave? So some vocabulary that we just need to recall is textile and weaving. So textiles are materials made from fibers or yarns, and weaving is the craft or action of forming fabric by interlacing threads. So today in our lesson, we're going to be weaving with paper. But obviously, if you'd like to use threads or some materials, that's absolutely fine. But we just expecting you to use paper at this stage. Okay, so everybody will be weaving today. So because we're not in school, I'm going to be showing you 2 YouTube videos of how to weave. And you can choose which video you would like to do, or you're welcome to do both. So the first video that will come up is showing you how to weave paper like this. And the second video will be showing you how to weave paper like this. Okay, so for today's lesson, you're going to need 2 different pieces of paper or cardboard. So if you only have one color of paper, that's absolutely fine. Another video is going to show 2 or more. That's fine. You can use 2 white pieces of paper or 2 lined pieces of paper. That'll still work. You may also want to color 1 piece of paper in before you start as well. It's absolutely fine. As long as you've got 2 sheets of paper, that's fine. You will also need scissors, a pencil or a pen, and a ruler. These are the 2 videos. So if you'd like to just copy them into a new browser, that's fine. You can do that, or you can carry on watching and I will share my screen so you can watch those videos as well. So when you are finished watching the videos, I'd like you to have a go at weaving. It's lots of fun. Send us your pictures, we'd love to see them. So that's what we're doing for this art lesson. So have fun, guys.
To create a very simple paper weaving. All you need are 2 pieces of paper, and I've picked some dark and light construction paper, but you can really use anything as long as they're close to the same size. You need some scissors, something to make your lines with, and ideally you need a ruler, but if you just have a piece of paper that you can use to measure like a ruler or to make a straight line, that'll work too. Now, to create our weaving, we're going to need to choose 1 piece of paper to be our loom. That's what we're going to weave on. And to create our loom, we're going to take the corners of this bottom piece of the paper. And I want you to do your best when you fold it over to the top, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I just hold it and then fold it with my thumbs. Now I have the opening up here at the tippy top. And since I'm left-handed, I'm going to put my ruler right over here and line it up to the edge. Now you can make your lines with a pencil, but I'm using a Sharpie so that it's easier for you to see. And just do the best that you can to make a line across the top, just like that. And now we're going to line it up against this edge And starting from our first line, we're going to make stripes that go all the way down. And when you make your next line, just match up your ruler or whatever you're using to measure and fill in as many as you can. I suggest tracing a little bit more slowly than you're used to because you want it to be your absolute best, and it will really help when we are weaving. Now, because of the size of my paper, I'm not going to be able to fit the ruler in perfectly for my last one, so it's up to you. If you end up with enough room for a small line, go for it, but I'm going to leave it just the way it is. And now I'm going to keep it closed, but I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm going to cut up these lines and stop at the top. You're going to want to hold your paper so that it doesn't shift. Do the best you can. And now my loom is finished. When I open it up, I have all of these different pieces that I can pull apart, but they're still attached on the ends. Now I need something to weave with, and that's where I'm going to need my second piece of paper. And again, you can use any piece of paper that you want, but just do the best that you can. And to make these into even strips, I'm going to use my ruler trick again, where I line it up to the edge. Now, weaving reminds me an awful lot of science because you can change the paper, you can change the size, you can really experiment and see how yours turns out differently. And every time you make it different, you learn something new. Can you guess what I'm gonna do next? I'm gonna cut these out. Do the best that you can because you don't want jagged edges. All right, it's time to weave. The basic pattern goes like this. Over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. Then slide it to the edge. And you might want to get a little dot of glue if you have it and glue down on the sides. But I'm always going to do the opposite. I don't want to do the same thing that I did or my strips will be next to each other. I want that awesome checkerboard pattern. So I'm gonna go like this. I'm gonna go under this time, then over, and under, and over, under, and over, and over. Ha, gotcha, just kidding. Under, and over, and then slide it down to the next one. And I've got that awesome checkerboard pattern starting. Doing the opposite again, starting over. And again, you'll see me start a little bit towards the middle and then slide over because it's easier to manipulate. It gets a little tricky towards the end. Just be gentle. You don't want to rip your paper, but if you do, I guess you could tape it back up. And there you have it. There's your basic paper weaving. And after you've made one and you glue down the edges, you can decorate it with stamps, or you can find other paper, cut out circles and add decorations. So I hope that you share what you've made with me. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Then you're going to choose one of the strips from the baskets at your table, and you want to line it up at the top here, and we're going to use this as a kind of a ruler, and you just want to draw underneath that strip with a pencil. Okay, and so for my weaving here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some lines that go from this line to the bottom of my fold. Okay, and I'm going, this is op art, so I want it to look interesting. So instead of just going straight up and down, I'm going to kind of curve them outward from the center here. So I'm going to start with a center line. So I just kind of found the center point, and then I'm going to scooch over and I'm going to make this one come out. So this is a diagonal line, that means it is slanted, and I'm going to do the same on this side. So I have a straight vertical, straight diagonal, and then I'm going to do another diagonal. And this one's going to be a little more slanted, and this one's going to go near the corner. Same thing on this side. So what I've done here is I've created symmetry. I've created the same on both sides. So if I were to cut this paper right in half, I have the same design on both sides. Okay, so now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut on these lines. Notice how my paper is still folded. And you want to stop at that horizontal line that you drew going across. Now here's something just to be careful of. So if you're going to be doing this kind of weaving, so you have your straight line, your two diagonals on either side. Okay. What I want you to notice how my diagonal line went way over here. So I'm going to cut it open and show you what this is. You see what happened? These aren't connected. We don't want that. So when you draw your line over here, you got to make sure that line gets to the bottom, not the side. So this line should look more like this. Notice how it's hitting the bottom. You don't want to get it too close to that corner. Okay. This one should probably come in a little more like to here instead of way over here. Because it's going to be hard to do the weaving when you have all these pieces that are not together, okay? So make sure it looks more like this. Center, two diagonals, but don't get them too close to the corner. Leave a little space, okay? Okay, so now you want to open it up. And now what we have done is we've created little slits in our paper, and this is going to be called the warp part of our weaving. And then we're going to use cut up strips as our weft part. So the weft is what you're going to weave through the paper, okay? So I'm going to do rainbow order here. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. Those are the colors I'm choosing. You don't have to do rainbow order. It is up to you, but I'm just going to get these to the side, get them ready for me. So I'm going to start with red. And when we weave, you want to think about going over, under, over, under, over, under. So we have these slits here to let us do that. So I go over this first part, I lift this part, and I go under. Over the next one, pick up the next, under. Over, under, over, under, over, under. Okay, like that. And then you want to scooch it up to the top. Now this is a little long, I'm going to trim it. If yours is too long, you can trim it, but if it's the right size, just let it be. Okay, so I went over, under with the red. Now my next one, I'm choosing orange. This time I'm going to go under, over, under, over. So I got to go under the first part. And then I push it through, over, under, over, under, over. Okay. Now the next one I go back to over, under, over, under. So we kind of make a pattern here. So over, under, over, under, over, under. And you should already start to be seeing a kind of an optical illusion, like these are kind of going back into space a little bit. When I start under, over, under, over, under, over, scooch it up. Then back to over, under. And here on the edges, it's kind of hard because my edges are super tiny, so just make sure yours gets where it needs to be. Back to under, over with the violet. All right, so now I've used my colors of the rainbow, so I'm just gonna go back and start again. So I'm gonna go back to red. Okay, so what I've done here is I've created an optical illusion. It kind of looks like, almost like this is a box. Here's like the corner of it, and it's going back into space, playing with our eyes. And what we want to do now is we want to glue all of our strips down so they don't slide out.